Hey guys, welcome to another video. And in this video, I want to do a review for the song No L's by Forrest Frank. And so this song just came out today. And so I was listening to it and I was just so inspired to do a video because one of my favorite things about Christian music is how the messaging is just super positive and super uplifting. And even whenever you hear songs that are, sad, or songs that are difficult to hear, it's comforting to know that someone else who's also, going through these things, but they're going through these things, and talking about them in a way that they're using Jesus to help them get through these things. And it's not just like this worldly music of, oh, you have a bad day and you kind of feel sorry for yourself and throw yourself a pity party. It's nice to hear music that has a different kind of message that goes through bad days or tough times in a different way because they ultimately understand that these things are happening for a reason and that God only hands his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And so I wanted to talk about four parts of the song that I really enjoy. And I wanted to kind of break down like what they mean and just the importance of these lines in the song. And so the first part is literally how the song starts off by, when he says, "We ain't taking no L's." And so the important thing with this is it's very important to structure your mind around how you process things that happen to you. You might think of certain things as, oh, I missed out on this, or this thing was a loss. But it all comes down to your mindset in the sense of, at the end of the day, by L's, it's like we don't take losses, but it's important to take lessons. Because when you take lessons from things that happen to you instead of losses, you don't get super hard on yourself to the point where you just get real hard on yourself and then you think, oh, this is only your fault that things are happening, that, oh, this didn't work out because of me, or this didn't work out and I should have made this work out. We instead look at things from a situational kind of perspective of, okay, well, this didn't work. I can do this, that, and the other thing different to make it work better for me. And like when he says, for example, we ain't taking no L's, it's about reframing your mindset into how you perceive the different challenges that come along with life and the different things that you're trying to accomplish. And so the second part of the song of the stuff I wanted to talk about is when he says the battle's been won. And so this reminded me of, I think I did a video on this maybe a week or two ago or something. But I was talking about how it's important to remember that anything that we're struggling with, Jesus has already won that battle. And so it's important to remember that we are fighting from victory and not for victory. Because in the day to day life, it gets so easy to internalize everything that's happening and to think, oh, well, I'm going through this and I have to figure this out and I have to make it through this and I have to do this. But what we don't realize is the things that we're trying to overcome, Jesus has already overcome these things. So as long as we trust God, as long as we continue to pray and we continue to talk about these things whenever they pop up, the better chance we have of putting ourselves in a position to overcome whatever it is that we're struggling with. And so I think just perspective is everything. And that was the quote that really helped shift how I think about problems or inconveniences. Because when you think of a problem as something that's, oh, well, I have to overcome this and I have to do this and I have to put the team on my back and do this. What we forget is that Jesus has already put us all on his back. So we don't have to put anyone else on our back because Jesus has already done the heavy lifting for us. And so as long as we can keep that in mind, as long as we can remember those things, it helps us to reframe our perspective and to deal with temptation better, to deal with any trials or tribulations that we may have. So I thought it was really cool just hearing that line because I was like, man, I literally just did a video on that. And so the other part of the song was when he says, I was lost, but now I'm found, trapped in darkness till you came around. And so I tell people all the time, I think one of the most important things that I've gained with kind of being born again and starting to go to church and like do these things is I've gained a different level of peace that I didn't have before because I've seen it in people when you don't have a relationship with God, when you're not reading the Bible, when you're not praying as often as you should. There's so many temptations in the world that it becomes easy to just live such a worldly life where you're chasing women or you're chasing money or you're chasing notoriety, fame, accolades, all these things. Because before, for the longest time, I felt like all I was doing was chasing money, chasing, popularity, chasing these things. But at the end of the day, what we don't realize is we're looking to the world to give us something that only God can give us. And what we don't understand is the longer that we chase these things, the longer that we put our happiness and our validation in these things, the longer that we're bound to be let down. Because when you're chasing money, it's like, okay, well, once you make a certain amount of money, it'll never be enough. Because once you make 100,000, you want 500,000. Once you make 500,000, you want 1,000,000. Once you make 1,000,000, you want five. And so all of these things just kind of keep going and keep going. If you're chasing cars, okay, you buy a Mercedes and then it goes from Mercedes to, I want a G-Wagon. You get a G-Wagon, it's like, I want a Porsche. I want a Lambo. I want all these things. And so when we're putting our validation and we kind of see ourselves through these material things, it's really just a black pit where, we're going to continue chasing these things over and over and over again, and we're never going to have enough. And so that's why it was cool, like the fact that he said, trapped in darkness till you came around. Because when we're chasing these things, when you're chasing a relationship and you're thinking that, okay, once you find your person, you're going to be happy forever and that's going to be the case, that's usually not the case. And usually it ends up making the relationship not as fulfilling as it should be because you're leaning on this relationship to be a crutch for your happiness. And so when you're relying on one other person to bring you the happiness that only God can give you, you're bound to be let down even more so than you would if you put your primary focus on God and then of course still loved your partner, still loved the other person, but didn't make it this thing where you need this person to breathe because this is the only thing in your world. And so the last part of the song that I wanted to talk about was when he says, run the race at the pace that you're supposed to. And this part of the song really just reminds me of just the importance of not feeling like you need to get something by a certain age. Because so many of us tend to think, oh, well, I need to start college when I'm 18. I need to get into this program when I'm 22. And then I need to start working when I'm 26. And they have this timeline for their life, but oftentimes when we create this timeline, we don't know if that's God's timeline for our life. God might want you to start college when you're 24 or 25, and then maybe you become a doctor or whatever when you're 36 or 37. And we tend to get frustrated because we want things to happen according to our timeline, but we never sit back and think, wait, what's God's timeline? Because for me, it was one of those things where when I was single and, wanting to find, a girl and, get married and all these things, I thought it, would have happened much sooner. And I was like, oh, well, how come, I'm 21 and still single? How come I'm 22 and still single and all these things? And it's because I was thinking about things from my standpoint. I was thinking about things based on the timeline that I wanted and not the timeline that God wanted for me. And so we all have to understand that Ultimately, life is a race and people run their race at different paces. And just because you're walking, you're in a season of life where it feels like you're crawling, maybe you're barely walking. That doesn't mean that the race is over for you. That doesn't mean that, oh, because you're crawling at this point of time and it feels like everybody else is sprinting, it doesn't mean that you've lost. Because ultimately, the way that I think about it is life is a marathon. And so, yeah, if you complete a marathon, it's amazing that you completed it. And so just doing the best that you can to keep moving forward, just like in a marathon. You might get sore, you might get tired, but as long as you keep moving forward and finish it, that's really where the real win comes. The real win comes from just not giving up, and when you continue to keep moving forward, when you continue to keep improving. And so, yeah, you guys, that pretty much sums up my thoughts on the song No L's by Forrest Frank. And so I wanted to talk about the four lines again, just in case you guys forgot. So the first line is "We ain't taking no L's." The second line is "The battle's been won." The third part was "I was lost, but now I'm found, trapped in darkness till you came around." And the fourth part of the song I loved is "Run the race at the pace that you're supposed to." And so if you guys listen to this song, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you guys stuck with me for this entire video, I appreciate you guys. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what your favorite parts of the song were as well in the comments below. And I'll talk to all of you guys in the next video.